Still on the fuel, commuters will feel the pinch when the latest round of fuel price hikes kicks in at midnight. 93-octane petrol, as we said, is going up by a whopping R2.37, while the 95 diesel by R2.57 a litre.
Right. Now, the cost of living is forcing South Africans to dig deeper into their pockets. So how do we make it work? Do we depend on credit cards or take out loans? How and where do you cut down on your expenses?
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer. You can also call me Jen. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the financial crisis, the financial crisis that the world is facing right now, because it's not just us that are feeling the pinch. Every part of the world is feeling the pinch right now, and a lot of things have happened to propel us to where we are in this financial crisis that we are in right now. From the lockdown, from the first time that the virus was actually discovered and we had to go on lockdown, that on its own pushed us even faster to where we are now. And then also the wars that have been happening, all of those things, they actually propelled us to where we are now. That is why we're seeing all this. That is why we're seeing all this rise with oil. We're seeing all this rise with petrol. That's because so many things, and also a lot of people got retrenched during lockdown, and that is because of all these things that have happened that have kind of pushed us to be in the situation that we find ourselves in now. Now, the things that the government has been doing was, back then when we were on lockdown, the government decreased the interest rates, and that's because people were not buying as much, people were not participating as much in the economy, and government needed to make sure that they kind of motivate people to do that. And so they decreased the interest rates, which meant that businesses could borrow more money. People could borrow more money by buying cars, buying houses. I saw a lot of people buying cars during lockdown, which didn't make sense. I also saw a lot of people buying property during lockdown. I bought my property just before lockdown, and when we went into lockdown, my interest rate went down crazy, such that there was a point whereby my interest rate was around 6.something%, and that was just the way that government was trying to fuel up the economy. Now, because they did that, there's also a part of now an increased demand of things. There's an increased demand of things. More people have cars now. However, we don't have as much petrol because Russia decided to go to war. I know that some people are saying that, well, we don't get our oil from there, but let's just be honest, they supply major parts of the world. And so whether we like it or not, we will be affected. And so the demand has been going up and up and up for things like petrol and oil and all the stuff. However, the supply has been low. So what did the government do? They've actually increased the inflation in order to kind of cool down the demand. The reason why I'm sharing this is because these whole things that have been happening have led to increases in prices while our salaries are staying stagnant. My salary is very much stagnant. Like, it's been like that, and I don't think it's going to change unless I get a promotion. And so, but everything else has went up. If you are in a situation whereby you are living over your means right now, you will feel the pinch. You will ultimately feel the pinch of this recession. And so I wanted to share with you things that you can do to kind of proof your life, to save-proof your life from this recession. Not to say it won't impact you, not to say that you won't feel it. However, you want to feel it, but then not be too highly impacted, and for it to not disturb you on your focus. Let's say, for instance, right now you want to invest, you want to do all those things. You want to keep doing all those things, but then also, as much as everything is going crazy and haywire, you don't want to be overwhelmed by that and being sucked in the bubble. You want to still be clear-minded and see where you are going, So I'll share with you 5 points. The first thing that I would do if I was in that situation, I would actually minimize my debts. Now, I started minimizing my debts way before this whole saga happened, way before the lockdowns happened and all the stuff. And so now I'm in a better state. However, if you have debt right now, so many of us have retail debt. we have personal loans, we have cars, and we have home loans. What I would do is, oh, by the way, let me just put this disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just Jennifer on the block, sharing my own perceptions. These are my own opinions and perceptions, and they can be challenged. So don't take this as financial advice. Don't take anything that I say as financial advice, people. This is just me sharing my own practices, the things that I do, and my own opinions, quite frankly. And I'm sharing these things so that they can spark something in you. Don't take them as, oh, then let me go and do that. Don't do that. Don't take it as a word of mouth. Rather, let it spark something in you in order for you to start probing more on certain things, and start building your research on certain things so that you can equip yourself. It's not to say, take this and go do it. It's to say, okay, let me do my research. So first thing is, I will deal with the retail debt. You don't need to have a Woolworths account. You don't need to buy food on debt. You don't need that. You don't need to buy food in debt. You don't need to buy clothes in debt. You don't need a Mr. Price account. You don't need a Shit Street account. You don't need an Edgar's account. You don't need a Woolworths account. You don't need a Foschini account. If you can't afford to buy those things cash, then you can't afford them. You can't afford them. So if you really want to set yourself up and recession proof your life right now, I would say tackle the small debts first. So if, let's say, for instance, you have retail accounts normally are the small debts. If there's someone that you owe, pay that person off and stop borrowing money. I'm just going to be frank with you. Stop borrowing money from people. And then the second thing that I would do after I've tackled those small debts is I would actually do my detailed budget. And I would say that sit down with yourself, draw down the budget, look at your bank statement and see where your money is going. Get a full view of your living expenses. How much it costs for you to have your living, to live now. How much does it cost? How much is it taking from your salary? And then from there, you can then say, okay, there are certain things that I may not need. I may not need DSTV. I may not need to pay 400 rands for DSTV. I may rather go for access, which is 100 and something. You can do that. You may say, okay, maybe instead of paying for DSTV, because I have Wi-Fi in this house and Wi-Fi is more important or fiber is more important than DSTV, I'd rather forgo DSTV and just have Netflix, which is a cheaper option while I'm paying for my fiber. Because if I'm being honest, I feel like right now, in this world that we live in, you can't afford to cut off Wi-Fi. You can't afford to be disconnected. You need to have Wi-Fi. It's useful for school, for the children at school. It's useful for you to do your research, because the more that you are learning, the more that you are equipping yourself. You may be sitting here and watching these videos and it may look like it's a waste of time from other people's perspective, but you are learning something. It's sparking something within you, so don't, like cutting off Wi-Fi, I wouldn't do that. My partner, we share. I have Netflix, he has DSTV. So I have his account for DSTV. I'm able to watch DSTV shows, which I haven't done in a very long time. And then he's able to watch whatever that he may want to watch on Netflix using my account. So both of us, we're not paying for both Netflix and DSTV at the same time, So find a way to cut off on those living expenses. Instead of always driving to work, you can say that, okay, I'm going to carpool or I'm going to take a bus. Like there are colleagues of mine that take a bus with me, but where they drive from their homes, park at the nearest parking station, and then take a bus, go into town, and then from work they come back with the bus, take their cars and go home. Now the distance that they have to drive from their houses to the station is very short, which is cutting down on the petrol. So find ways that you can cut down on your living expenses. Instead of going and buying a grocery 5,000 or 4,000, rather give yourself weekly allowances. Break down that 4,500 into weeks and buy things that you need, things that you actually use in your house. So there are many ways that you can find ways to just decrease in your living expenses. But I would say that the next thing after tackling your debt, or actually do that first, Look at your living expenses. Look at how much you spend each and every month on your living expenses. Find places that you can cut. And then where you are cutting, take that money and channel it into the small debt. Start with the smallest debt and then work your way up. Work your way up. You'll be motivated more then, you know. The third thing, after you've tackled all the small debts, you've decreased your living expenses, I would say start working on your emergency fund. Now, don't make your emergency fund to be big. Maybe you can say my emergency fund starting with is going to be 15,000. Let me work on saving 15,000, which is going to be my emergency fund. Start small. Don't start big. I started with 30,000, which is reasonable for me as a person who's living way below my means. And so I knew that 30,000 for me is very reasonable. But if you know that, okay, you're trying to make changes in your life and it's been very hard, don't start with a big sum of money, because if you start with a high sum of money, you're not going to be motivated. As you pay, you're going to realize that it's not moving, and then you're going to get demotivated and stop. So I would say that start with just 15,000 and say, okay, I'm going to work towards saving towards my emergency fund, which is 15,000, or maybe make it 10,000. Start working towards actually saving for that. And I would really advise you to look into Time Bank and also look into Frank if you want to build your emergency fund. Find a way where you're going to put your money where there is a high interest. The goal is to have a high interest so that it can, if we're being honest, right now with the rate of inflation and the interest that you are getting, the highest that you can get right now is equivalent to inflation, which might not make much of a difference, but it's something. It's better than going and putting your money in your mattress or putting it in your normal savings account where it's not going to give you any money at all. Number 4, the thing that I would do as well is I would not do long-term investments. Now here I'm talking about people that have really been struggling. I'm talking about people that just have so many debts. I'm talking about people who haven't had an emergency fund before, people who have no nest egg here. If you are that person, can you just hold on in long-term investments? Deal with the small stuff first, because I know that we are so good at having multiple life covers. You don't need multiple life covers. Actually, if you are one of those people, please go back and review how many life covers you have. When it comes to life cover, the most important thing is not how much you can leave for your kids, people, but the assets that you can leave for your kids. Money is not assets. So let's say, for instance, you have a property and your property is worth 800,000. You want to make sure that your life cover matches that, okay? And even more, ne? Because when you pass on, your kids need to then take some of that money, go to the whatever the lawyers and get lawyers that will help them with the shifting of assets. No, so your house will be written under your name. Then when you have passed on, your kids have to shift that to whomever that you have left that house to. Ne? So that costs money. It costs a lot of money. So you want your life cover to kind of take care of whatever that is left of your bond, pay it off so that the house can belong to your family. It can be an asset to your family. And then your kids can be able to shift that asset away from you, because now you're deceased. Doesn't make sense for it to be written under your name, to be written under the person that you said the property must stay with, you know. So that is the whole point of life cover. It's not to say I want to leave my kids with millions. That's why we have I Blew It now, because that show is portraying how much people don't value money, especially money that they haven't worked for. Oh, another thing, funeral covers. If you have multiple funeral covers, stop it, people. This whole thing of us wanting to have many funeral covers and wanting to bury everyone in our family, stop it. Stop it. You don't need to do that. So with me, I only have one funeral cover. Mine gives out cash, and mom has the one for the funeral. So I know that the funeral will be taken care of on the side of my mother, and then on my side, that's where I come in with cash to meet whatever needs that they may arise for that person's funeral. And then for mine as well, I know that it would be able to cover my entire funeral, you know. So don't just go, yeah, I've bought funeral cover. Yeah, this bank, they give you funeral cover. This insurance, they give you funeral cover. Just don't do that, because you're going to be just Don't do that. Don't have multiple funeral covers. One funeral cover is enough. Actually, you can have funeral cover with AFBOB and you know that you'll be buried nice. The most important thing is for you to be buried, not for people to eat at your funeral, but for you to be buried. So what else is more important? So I would look into that. Like, stop all of these investments and these long-term investments and channel your money wisely. Cut off any unnecessary investments that you may have. All these long-term investments, cut them off. And also another thing is, look into your retirement annuity. If you have it with an insurance company, find out how much you have right now. Because I know we don't do this. Most of these insurance companies don't give out statements. Actually, find out how much you have. Always check. If you want to do it, rather do it annually. Annually check. How much do I have now? How much do I have now? That way you will understand how much you need to put more in order for you to get to the desired goal. But I will also say that sway away from investing for your retirement annuity with insurance companies. Rather look into Ellen Gray, Investec, and all those financial institutions. Proper financial institutions, not insurance institutions. There's a difference, people. And then the last thing is, now that you've tackled those small debts, you have decreased your living expenses, there's money coming back to you, what you will rather do now is save as much as you can. Save as much as you can in a high yielding interest account. Now, emergency fund is the same thing as saving. So I would say that this is one of the similar point, but then you want to make sure that you are saving as much as you can. Save as much as you can. Focus most of your money towards maybe saving for your emergency fund. If your emergency fund now is fully funded, then start another saving or investment. I would say maybe you can go to Easy Equities, then start investing there, So do look at ways, once you have tackled debts, you've decreased your living expenses, you are now living below your means, you start to have so much freedom with your finances, and that's where you want to get to. Once you are there, it will be easy for you to take more steps towards the right direction. I hope this video was valuable to you and that it sparked something. As I said, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just sharing on the blog, sharing my own journey, my own experiences, and my own opinions, which can be highly challenged. And so with that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Please take care and stay safe. Bye.